Minnesota Twin Cities campus, Gopher football fan. Now, I suppose people do, but it's not like, next year or 10 years from now or 100 years from now, I'm not going to say, well, I'm going to stop being a fan of Gopher football and become a fan of the Wisconsin Badgers.
No.
You have that loyalty built into a fan base because a good portion of the fans, especially the smaller colleges that he brings up, he talks about St. Thomas and St. John's. That loyalty is burned into your mind after going to that school, and if you're alumni, that loyalty is burned in. That is not the case for professional sports.
No.
So it's hard to kind of make comparisons with the two.
And Dave, you and I both in Minnesota, so we're both Gopher fans. I will say this: you're never going to make MLS like college football. There's an atmosphere. There are students. There's camaraderie. There's all types of things that go into college football that's never going to happen in MLS.
No, professional football, the NFL is not like college football.
Exactly.
Yes, they play the same game, a few different rules, but they are totally different.
And it can't be.
Especially from a fan base standpoint.
And it can't be because professional sports have owners that want to make money.
So and great point. And I'm just looking at the article now just to refresh myself. But one of the sub headlines was soccer problem. Leagues care about money more than their fans.
Well, of course they do.
You bet. This is a business.
They're professional.
You have to care about the bottom line. Now, that being said, if they care more about money, they're not going to make that money without having a fan base.
Yes.
So,
and I don't think he gets into the point that MLS has done a fantastic job over the past. How long has MLS been around for?
94 or 5.
94, 95.
Just over.
They have done a fantastic job of growing themselves at a good rate, not getting too overgrowth. They've had some hiccups here and there, and have done a great job of marketing themselves. Yeah. They have done a very good job at that. And in today's age, you have to do that. You got to be on the Facebooks and the Twitters and the social media, and you got to do that, and you have to make it a good time. College football has been around for over 100 years. They'll be around for another 100, 200, 300 years, okay? They don't have to market themselves, really, because everybody knows about it. They got TV deals. They've got the championship. They got all the bowl games, all that stuff. You cannot make Major League Soccer like college football.
No.
It doesn't work that way.
And just, and towards the end of the article, and we aren't going to bang this point into the ground, but he does bring up, he doesn't give any answers. Mm-hmm. I think basically the article is how Major League Soccer, and actually not just Major League, but some of the lower soccer leagues as well, is not like college football.
Well,
It'll never be that way. He brings up ideas. They aren't necessarily answers, but he brings up ideas like this could be a system of promotion or relegation or local conferences or something else entirely, which he doesn't mention.
No.
It's just a very vague article.
Yeah, I don't think that he entirely understands the concept.
No.
He mentions that USL, which anybody that follows us through the Beautiful Game Network knows this because they're primarily USL. Mm-hmm. Anybody that doesn't, USL is the second division. He says that how USL is basically a feeder league. Most of the teams are affiliated or are owned by MLS, and which is interesting because they're not.
No.
There's 33 teams in USL, and only 9 of them have direct affiliation with MLS.
And that's what I thought. Like the Loons don't have an affiliated.
Right. No.
And on top of that, in terms of being a feeder league, like minor league baseball, absolutely not.
No.
And if you look at even say the championship in England or 2 Bundesliga in Germany, they're all kind of feeder leagues.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're playing for Derby County in the English Championship, if you're really good, there's a pretty good chance there's an EPL team sitting there watching you and saying, he'd be an easy transfer.
Yep.
Let's make a deal. I mean, it obviously it's not like college football because generally, more times than not, a Division II player doesn't transfer to a Division One. It happens.
It happens. It does.
But it's one of those situations where I don't think it can be like college football in that sense, because every league around the world is like that. So I think he misses the point of the fact that while we're not exactly like other leagues around the world, it's not terribly different.
No.
It's missing that pro rel situation,
which we've talked about before. Will never happen here because we can't do it. England can do it because they've got all these stadiums, and Italy. The Europeans can do this because they've been doing it for over 100 years now. Okay, we can't do relegation promotion here. Okay, he's also missed the point that college football has 112 teams in the top division. Okay, and then in the lower divisions, you got any more teams. There's a ton of colleges that play football in this country.
Yeah.
This is a professional sports league. This is not college sports here.
Here's, I've got a couple more points from, and the last point can segue perfectly into the next article that, Tony, you want to talk about. But, here's, and I'll quote here from the article. Soccer bigwigs will tell you that fans want to watch amazing TV broadcasts of the best players in the best stadiums, yet this can't come close to explaining why only a few American soccer games this season will exceed the football passion on both sides of the field. And then he goes on to mention specific lower conference teams like St. John's and St. Thomas. But so he talks about passion. I don't think he's been to enough MLS soccer games.
No, I would bet he hasn't been to any.
Because college football, that's one of the reasons I love college football. There's a lot of passion, there's a lot of loyalty there. Like I said, it was burned into you. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about Major League Baseball, even NFL but NBA, all the major sports, from my experience, the passion at Major League Soccer games that are close to capacity, which most of them are, other than a few cities, the passion level is amazing. The supporters group is amazing. I think he's way off by trying to just say that the passion level in U.S. soccer is not good.
But I think he's also missed the point of the passion level in college sports. You're going to get, and again, you're going to get these kids for 4 years, okay? And you're always renewing kids back into the stands, and they're passionate because they are students at that college.
And some of them might be drunk.
And some of them, a lot of them are. But then when they leave college, you're probably going to lose, what percent, Dave? I mean, what percent of those fans that were at, when we were at the University of Minnesota, we were big fans of golfers. What percentage of those fans do you think then, when they leave the U, say, well, I'm not really going to be involved in their sports anymore? Like 50%?
Well, I mean, you are going to lose a significant amount only because, a lot of the people that, say, graduate from a local college then move off across the country, elsewhere across the world. So you're going to lose, but you don't lose, the fact that you're a fan of, as an alumni, you can still be a fan. Maybe alumni. You can't support it by going to the games on a weekly basis.
Exactly right. And you're alumni, you're not as passionate as you were as a student.
Correct.
There, okay?
Maybe.
So that's, you've lost that.
In most cases, that's true. Right.
Yeah. You switch it over to professional sports. You get some kid who's 10 years old, and he's a fan of the Loons, okay? And he's a passionate fan of the Loons. They're going to have that kid as a passionate fan of the Loons probably till he's 70 or 80.
Yeah.
Because it's professional sports. He's in this town. If he stays here, that's that. You're not losing him after 4 years because he's graduated. He's a professional sports fan through and through. I've been a big fan of the Twins since I was 8 years old. Okay? I've been a big fan of Timberwolves since the Timberwolves started in 1989. Okay? I've been a big fan of the Vikings, like you have, Dave, since you moved here. Everybody, we're all fans of the Vikings. I've been a big fan of the Wild since they started here, and I've been a big fan of the Loons. And I'm not going to change because I'm graduating. I'm a professional sports fan. That's the way it works. Right. So you cannot make professional sports like college sports. There's different things going on there.
And I'm a good example of this. When we moved to Colorado, I still followed, at the time, Stars.
Yeah.
Even though I was in Colorado.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
I didn't all of a sudden say, I'm not a Stars fan anymore because
right.
I moved 1,000 miles away.
That's right.
I stayed connected. And when they became the United, and they started broadcasting online, I started watching the games online. Mm-hmm. I came back to Minnesota, and I got season tickets.
Yep.
I mean, it's not, like you said, when you become a fan of a professional sports team, you generally stay that supportive as long as you possibly can.
You're a fan for life.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. There's people on actresses who have gone out to L.A. who are still fans. Josh Duhamel, or whatever his name is, from North Dakota. He's still a fan of the Vikings, for Pete's sakes, and he's been out in L.A. for 20 years.
Right.
You know, he's not a fan of the Rams or the Raiders.
Right.
He's a fan of the Vikings.
Exactly.
When you are a professional sports fan, you stick with your team more often than not.
Right. There are some changes.
His article kind of rubbed me the wrong way, as he didn't really give any examples of how it was going to be like college, and it was kind of just rambling.
Yeah.
And I don't know the guy, and I don't know the guy personally.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not upset with the guy. I'm mad at the guy. I don't hate the guy. But I think an article like this is like, why even put it in your paper?
There's just nothing there. I mean, I think what he wanted to do was highlight the passion that fans of college football have, which is true. But then to say that, you know, that passion doesn't exist in any of the major sports, well, that's simply not true.
That's bullshit.
And as soccer is especially, and why he is picking, it's almost like he's picking on soccer, and I think he's a little off from that. From a passion standpoint, he's a bit off.
And he's a soccer writer, which surprises me.
So, and I think the next point, because he specifically mentions that every week in the fall, a shade under 4 million people will attend college football games. But we already talked about the number of colleges that have football programs, whether it's Division I, NCAA, or second or third division. There's
so many,
hundreds of hundreds.
Yeah.
There's over 100 in Division I.
Can't compare.
There's more than that in the lower divisions.
Can't compare it.
But he specifically mentions that there's 4 million people. I think that point kind of segues nicely into the next article you wanted to bring up, Tony.
And I want to bring up another article that the Wall Street Journal just published a report saying that college football, at their games, they'll announce that there's a crowd of 39,000. But in reality, there's only 25,000 people actually in the stands. And they actually brought up the Gophers in the Nebraska game last year, saying that the attendance was announced at 39, and there's only 25,000 people in the stands. So I didn't know this before today. I know MLB does. MLB counts who comes into the stadium. That is their attendance. I guess NCAA does not do that. They just count who actually buys tickets. So the NCAA, especially the Gophers, and that game lost out on 14,000 people.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's what they're saying. So we were talking about this on text today, or a couple days ago. That's $250,000 to $500,000 worth of food, beverage, merchandise that the Gophers lose out on by not having those 14,000 people at the stadium.
In that, was it that article that specifically looked at, because they were looking at both revenue and attendance?
Yeah.
And that revenue is dropping nationwide in college football.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, the attendance actually for the Gophers, and we're going to talk about them because I'm a Gopher fan, but the attendance actually slightly went up last year over the year before, but the revenues were dropping.
Of course.
But I think the only reason that the Gophers saw an uptick, which is against kind of what we've seen with across nationally.
Yeah.
But I think that uptick was only because of the new coaching hire in PJ Fleck, which, I mean, it's a good reason for the attendance to go up, but it was only up slightly.
Well, let's go back to the article at the Star Tribune. So you want you want MLS to be like college football. So you want more people not showing up for the games?
Right.
I mean, come on, man.
Well, and so the Strib article, what was that number that he gave?
He said 4 million fans on an average week.
Right.
Across the country.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you say, well, let's pull out a calculator here. 4 million. Oops, that's 40 million.
Not 40. 4.
Divided by what? How many teams are there roughly?
Well,
Division 1?
It's tough because in Division 1 there's over 100. I think it's 120.
I think it's 120.
Something. But that's just Division 1. He specifically is talking about even Division 3.
So even if you do Division 1.
Yeah.
If that was 4 million across Division 1, that's 33,000.
Yeah.
It's what you have Atlanta, you have Seattle, you have Orlando on some cases. You have